Good evening, everybody. If you could all just remain standing for me and just to observe a minute's silence as a mark of respect for a former councillor that some people may remember, Councillor Edna Wright, who sadly passed away recently. The funeral is tomorrow at 12 noon at Holy Trinity Church, if anybody would like to attend. Thank you, everybody. Take a seat. Okay, could we just start with apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've received notification from Councillor Wallace. I've received his apologies, but no other apologies have been submitted to me. Are there any to be submitted?
No. Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 2, declarations of interests. Have members any interest they need to declare for this meeting? No. No business required by statute to be done before any other business this evening. And move on to item 4, which is to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of July as a correct record. Everybody happy with that? Okay, thank you. And then to follow from that, are there any questions on the minutes? Councillor Brash.
Many thanks, Chair. On page 6 of the minute, item 25.2, the motion on children in care and the placement pressures, have we received any response from either the Minister or our Member of Parliament? And if so, what was the content of the response?
Oh, I know there's been nothing that's come to me, Councillor Brash.
No, we haven't received responses from the Minister or our MP.
Thank you, Chair. Can I, in that case, pass comment on that answer? My understanding is that you raised this matter with our Member of Parliament in February of this year. That was the answer the Managing Director gave at the last Council meeting in February. It's almost October at the weekend. I find it genuinely passing understanding, yeah, insulting is exactly the word, Councillor Harrison, that our Member of Parliament, and particularly given the report that went to Finance and Policy at their last meeting, which demonstrates the utter and complete catastrophe that is the situation with looked after children, not just here, but right across the region, indeed the country, with regards to funding and the system. And indeed, it was the members opposite who brought the motion last time to highlight this issue, and happy to pay tribute to them for doing so. For our Member of Parliament to not have even responded to the request that was made in July, last council meeting, months have gone by. And when one checks the record, one discovers there are no written questions to ministers from our Member of Parliament on the issue of looked after children. There are no spoken contributions by our Member of Parliament on the issue of looked after children. And it was raised in February of this year. In fact, there hasn't been a written question by our Member of Parliament since July 2022. She hasn't raised one issue about Hartlepool with a minister since July 2022. Our Managing Director and this council raised it with her months ago and hasn't even had the temerity to respond. It's a disgrace. And I imagine that there are members opposite who may be too polite to say so, but I imagine they think it's a disgrace as well.
Thank you, Councillor Brash. Okay, just checking. Oh, sorry, Councillor Brash.
I apologise, I've got a second question on the minutes.
All right, yeah.
On page 6, item 32, the motion that was passed during the Chief Executive's business report with regard to our Mayoral Development Corporation. Have we had any meaningful response from the Mayoral Development Corporation on our requests? And have our 2 elected members thus far respected the wishes of council, passed, I have to say, with the support of members on all sides, to make their attendance contingent on our requests being met?
Please.
I haven't received any correspondence from Mayor Houghton.
And to answer the question from a personal level, there has been one meeting of the Mayoral Development Corporation, which I did attend, and I attended because I wasn't appointed to the Mayoral Development Corporation by this council. I was appointed personally, and so therefore it's right of me to attend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I also attended a meeting because I'm appointed by the Development Corporation and not by Hartlepool Borough Council.
Councillor Brash.
Thank you very much. I understand that you were not appointed directly from this board. God knows that would have a sense of democracy about the HDC. But it was the wish of this council, including by members opposite who voted unanimously, as I recall, for that motion. I know the leader of the council wasn't in his place when the vote was taken, but members opposite said they wished the attendance of our members to be contingent on our requests being met, and they have not been met. So I'd like it noted for the record that both in the case of the Mayor of Hartlepool and the leader of the council, the wishes of this council, including members of their own coalition, have been ignored.
Okay, thank you. There are no items under agenda items 6 and 7. And so we move on to 8.1, which is the further periodic review of the Council's constitution. Hayley.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report is a requirement of our constitution where there's a proposed change to the council procedure rules. It's in the constitution that any changes to the rules must stand adjourned to the next meeting. The specific changes are those discussed at the last meeting and relate to debate on public questions and the change in start time for council meetings. Members are asked to approve these changes and give authority to me to make the necessary changes to the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Young.
I just suggest we move the vote if everybody's up for that.
Okay. Is there any dissent from the recommendations in the report? No? Okay. Thank you very much. So, item 8.2, the report of Audit and Governance Committee, presented by Councillor Brash.
Thanks, Chair. I will be brief. This was a report done under the chairmanship of my predecessor, former councillor Rob Cook. I did invite Rob to be here tonight. I don't think he's been able to take up the invitation as I did last time. This report really pertains to the additional consultation that was requested by Finance and Policy on the issue of accessibility of council services, and that took place between the 29th of June and the 8th of August. The details of that consultation can be found in Appendix 2. Of note, F&P have agreed all the recommendations that can be found in Appendix 1 of the report, and an action plan for implementation will be brought back to the A&G Committee and progress against that monitored in the usual way. I think it is just worth pointing out, I had the pleasure of visiting the Deaf Society in Hartlepool, and like many representatives of disabled communities in Hartlepool, their request was really very simple. We would like to be able to access council services in the way everybody else does, and at the most simple level, that is a pretty fair request, and it's not currently the situation we find ourselves in. Yes, there are resource implications, that's acknowledged, and I know the senior leadership team at the council have made that point in the report as well. However, I think it's important that this council endorses the principle of ensuring these recommendations are put into place, and as the action plan comes back with the associated costing, we'll have to push to get those implemented as much as possible, and I'm very happy to take any questions that members might have.
Thank you, Councillor Brash. Councillor Creevy.
Yeah, can I just add to that, that when it goes away to be costed, can we also include that grant funding be sought as well at the same time, please? Thank you.
Councillor Young.
Just one point that's worthy of note in the report. It does say that the 55% of respondents did find positive experiences while accessing council services. What that does mean, though, as Councillor Brash has said, that there are still those who still find difficulty accessing services, which we acknowledge and accept the report.
Okay. If there's no further questions or comments, can we move to the recommendations as set out in the report? No dissent? Great stuff. Thank you very much. So there is nothing under number 9. Received no questions. Nothing under 10. So we'll move on to 11. Yep, item 11. Highlight Leisure Facility Report of Finance and Policy Committee. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Highlight Leisure Centre has been a central regeneration project in the strategic plan of this council since our leadership began in 2019. A replacement for the Millhouse Leisure Centre has been needed for the last 15 years, with Labour sadly not doing much about it during their long tenure in leadership. We now have the final financial decision to make. Labour have seemingly supported Highlight proposal since 2019, and everyone is now more than clear on how the increasing costs have been reached. In the Finance and Policy Committee meeting on the 18th of September, there was a vote after every single penny of the 9 million was scrutinised. That vote recorded 2 Labour councillors voting for, 2 Labour councillors voting against, and 1 Labour abstention. We can't afford to dither when it comes to these matters. The abstention came from a Labour councillor who said that the figures were smoke and mirrors, and I can relay back to him that at Finance and Policy Committee, we were told that the increase was due to inflation, costs of materials, and the increased cost due to the procurement exercise needing to be carried out 3 times. So what of smoke and mirrors? Drivers were our cost consultants who independently assess everything we do, and the costs have therefore been benchmarked regionally and nationally and are found to be entirely in line. Sport England scrutinised at all levels. They used their own capital investment manager, the capital project design consultant, a company called Design Active, as well as their strategic facilities fund, capital investment board, and a wider panel. They agreed with the figures so much that they've awarded an extra £500,000 on top of the already record-breaking £2 million grant, which I'm told is the largest grant awarded in the UK by Sport England ever. Finally, Swim England checked our figures through their head of facilities, who agreed that the 9 million matched with the market and broader economy for all the reasons covered above. Wider points refer to our own senior team here at the council. Our own head of service for Active and Creative Hartlepool, Ian Gardner, has worked tirelessly on these financials and has done so with strategic help and support from Active Northumberland and Kirklees Active Leisure in relation to their recent facility designs, operations and supply costs. And we thank Ian and those services outside of the town for their valuable support. Ian has gone on to scope out other sites that have been operational for varying lengths of time and also met with specialist suppliers of equipment to learn of the best possible solutions linked to delivering such an important leisure facility, from filtration to fitness equipment and movable floors for the swimming pool. This is a complete and hugely comprehensive package of financial testing that has shown robust value engineering, identifying elements of design and associated build costs, from key structural elements to finishes, fixtures and fittings. This testing will continue throughout the build process so as to ensure we drive forwards further efficiencies at all times. The strategic planning outcomes needed to be robust, and as such we engaged industry experts to test the current leisure offer and the provision, the expected demand from residents, and therefore the overall necessary facility mix. The case was tested thoroughly by Max Associates, who were commissioned by Sport England. The facility will therefore boast event space, NHS provision, swimming, fitness and wider leisure services. So, once built, Highlight will be a far-reaching and extremely attractive destination point. But not only that, it will be surrounded by the incredible National Museum of the Royal Navy and the broader retail, leisure and hospitality offer close to the waterfront. This helps us as we continue to develop our destination management plan, which was accepted at the last Economic Growth and Regeneration Committee. The architect GT3 was appointed following extensive competition, and they are specialists in leisure architecture. The contractor Waits was appointed following 3 equally extensive procurement processes. Sport England and drivers were involved in the tender assessments and presentation day. So the damage caused by potential delay would be grave. We would lose £2 million in professional fees and works to date. The tender price we have secured is based on starting works in November 2023. If we do not start then, we automatically fail and forfeit the contract. This would reset the whole process. We would see negative impact to partners such as the National Museum of the Royal Navy, who are expanding in line with the promises that we've made, strategic promises that we've made, to ensure Hartlepool waterfront continues to be a thriving attraction and destination, which ultimately will create jobs. Sport England will pull out as their work to date would be deemed as a complete and utter waste of time. The corporate peer challenge that every council and senior leader is being tested against would fail based on their recommendations, which we accepted in this place. And that would further damage our public reputation as key strategic decisions agreed in terms of place shaping would be thrown out. Highlight is a central part of our regeneration plan as a council, and therefore central also to the destination management plan. We are on course to commence work within weeks, starting by November of this year. We are seeing a revival of the town, thanks to our leadership and our vision for a better future which benefits everyone who lives in, works in and visits the town. Hartlepool Conservative councillors, with our coalition partners, not only listen to residents, we are trying to deliver for them and will continue to do so. The government is taking us seriously. Major industry is taking us seriously. The amazing Tanya Cooper, MBE, recently expanded her fantastic steel bending company out of Middlesbrough into Hartlepool, and that's just one example. Netflix and other major broadcasters are using our town as a key location, including via our Northern Film and TV studios. The decisions we've made have helped secure our Hartlepool Town Deal funding, Levelling Up funding and Teesalley Combined Authority funding. Since 2019, in coalition, the Conservative Party has delivered. We've brought almost £160 million worth of investment, and it's not just about capital builds, it's about the opportunity to bring skills and jobs to the town that our residents need and definitely deserve, and will do so for generations to come. We've done so much, but there's still so much to do. The Labour members opposite who voted against the recommendations of the report gave little in the way of reasoning, and I feel that dissent will be their position. There can be no hiding from this decision tonight. The decision is categoric and is based on the financial facts that all here are aware of. There has been an extensive amount of money spent on procurement, design, consultancy, repairs of the sea walls, and a great deal of time spent throughout. As my colleague Councillor Brown said in our Finance and Policy Committee, the fact that the cost increase has stayed below 30% is commendable when you take into account the enormous challenges we have faced since our leadership began in 2019, a global pandemic, war in Europe, a cost of living crisis, on top of the already difficult challenges which face councils up and down the country. Value for money is imperative to us, and we always try to ensure every single penny and pound is spent wisely and as necessary. Our taxpayers deserve nothing less. Every pound we spend must have a return on investment socially, culturally and improving health and well-being. And so, we can see absolutely no reason for delay or cancellation of Highlight Leisure Centre. Only the Labour group opposite can stand in the way of delivering this massively important regeneration project, indeed our central and most important regeneration project. Whilst the Labour Party may look to play politics over the town's future and continued revival, we put at the heart of our priorities and policies striving to create opportunities they so need and deserve. We are the builders, and I hope tonight the Labour group will not be the blockers. I urge you all here tonight to support the motion to deliver this great project for our town. I move the report.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Can I ask, first of all, I've got a number of people who have signalled that they'd like to speak. Can I just ask if there are any actual questions on the report first before we move to more general debate? No? Okay, Councillor Brash.
Thank you, Chair. And can I first of all thank the Leader of the Council for his lecture on financial prudence, for which he is personally renowned. I think one needs to give some consideration to what committees are for. It's not us that keep talking about how committees are supposed to scrutinise themselves. It's the Leader of the Council. And we're not in the business of sending our committee members in whipped like nodding dogs to not ask any questions, to sit there in complete silence, as some might. We send them in free to challenge and scrutinise and ask questions, and if they don't get the answers they like, take the decision that they wish to like in that moment. It's called representative democracy. I thought it also slightly interesting that the Labour administrations that Councillor Young sought to criticise were populated by members that he cited himself, Councillors Brown and Lindridge, of course, serving in those Labour administrations that he sought to criticise. There's no issue here tonight. Of course we're going to support this important investment into our town. Of course we are. That doesn't mean we're not going to scrutinise it. It's not that we're going to not ask questions about how we arrived at a situation where £25 million of public money becomes £35 million of public money, that we're not going to ask why now there's £300,000 less for highway repairs in the town, or there's an additional budget pressure every year for additional loans that's going to cut services for Hartlepool people to pay for it. And it's not like I'm not going to point out who's responsible for the increasing costs. Because inflation right now in the United States is 3%. But thanks to members of the party opposite who crashed our economy almost a year ago today, inflation has remained stubbornly high throughout and is the reason for the inflated costs. The Conservative Party's crashing of the economy is the reason why Hartlepool taxpayers will have to pay more. Councillor Young said it himself, it's because of inflation. Inflation is higher in our country than it is in other countries because of the complete mismanagement of the economy by the party opposite. I must take umbrage, of course, with the point about investing in skills in our town. Tell that to the head teacher who's had their budget cut in real terms for 13 years. Tell that to the college leaders who've had their budgets cut in real terms for 13 years. Tell that to the people who want to deliver apprenticeships in our town who said that they've had to send £2.5 billion back to the Treasury unspent of the apprenticeship levy. The record on skills by this lot, well, let's just say it's not a shining example of financial and public prudence. I do have one more thing to raise, Chair, and it's actually quite apart from the central recommendation, but I think it's an important...
Very quickly, Councillor.
It's an important thing to raise, and it's really important. Other members can add to it. We've had representations over this issue from representatives of sports clubs in the town, sports clubs who feel that there has perhaps been a lack of engagement on the issue. No issue at all with the highlight, but of course the highlight's not going to have a sports hall. And they're very fearful that they'll be left out of the conversation. So I'd like to move an additional recommendation, not contingent on the vote on this, on the main substantive motion, not contingent on that at all, but a separate proposal to undertake a full audit of all sports hall facilities in the town, to create an open working group of officers, members and representatives of the sporting clubs of the town, which is open to all, to engage on the future of sporting facilities in the town, and that this working group reports into the appropriate committee to inform future decision making in this area. I know we have some bodies like this in the town, some of them met often, some of them met sometimes, some of them don't include everybody. Let's have one body that includes all sporting clubs in the town to discuss these issues going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I just refer to members to 2.1 on the report, which talks about the indoor facilities and playing pitch strategy, which identified the needs for sports pitches indoor and outdoor, and I know the council is working through that and is implementing that as we speak. I feel it would be beneficial for a report to go to the appropriate committee before we agree to an officer member working group, so that you actually have the detail of that. But that would be my recommendation to council.
Chair, well, one point of clarification. I didn't ask for an officer member working group. I asked for a working group of officers, members and representatives from any sports club in the town that wish to have their voice heard. However, the point you make is a valid one, Denise. So I'm happy for a report to go to a committee if it carries a recommendation or note from this council saying that our expectation is to engage all sporting clubs in the town in that debate and discussion. And should that not come to pass, we'll just move a motion at a future council meeting to make it happen. I think it's really, really important that there are sporting clubs who feel left out of the conversation and not listened to in the conversation about future sporting provision in the town. We have to change that, and that's not about decisions necessarily, it's about listening to what they have to say.
I think that's a decision for council, Chair.
Yeah. Okay, well, we have had... should we work on the second proposal there, Councillor Brash?
My proposal is simply to include what I just said in any report on future sporting provision in the town.
Sorry, that's what I'm getting at. Rather than it
that's
actually
fine.
to
More
this,
than
we'll
happy
send
with
it to a
that.
committee,
Yep.
And are you happy to second that, Councillor Creevy? Okay. Since we've had a proposal and a seconder, I will need to go to the vote on that, I guess, will I? Yeah.
Unless there's any
Is there any
dissent.
dissent from that? No? Nice and easy. Thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Thanks, Chair. I'll refer to the Finance and Policy meeting that Councillor Young has referred to in his slamming of the Labour group, when I think that's unnecessary and rather disappointing, actually. I think that nobody from the Labour group at that meeting said they were against this project. In fact, the five of us, whenever we asked a question of officers or anyone, actually said that we were supportive of it. So there's been no sense of this group being anti the highlight. We were very much in favour of it. What happened at the meeting, just to let people know and give a wider aspect of it, is that I certainly asked questions, as did the other four members, quite a lot of questions. We needed that debate. We needed to understand why the money had gone up so much. I think officers understood that. We got some very good answers and very clear answers, and answers that I certainly was happy with as far as my questions were concerned. But unfortunately, the debate was shortened. I don't know whether you felt it, it was going on too long, but you actually stopped it. And two of our members certainly still had questions to ask. And that's why the votes were slightly different. But it also, Mike, actually reflects what Jonathan has said, that, we go into a meeting, we do what we're there to do, we're representing people, we're asking questions, we're getting to the nitty-gritty of it, and we are coming to our own decisions, each member, rather than, we normally agree, yes, obviously, but we do have differences as well, and my colleagues might want to just go on a little bit more about it, but my understanding is that they weren't satisfied because they hadn't had an opportunity to ask some of the questions that they wanted. So that's, just to give you an idea, the reason for the difference in voting. But there was never a sense of anybody being against this project. The Labour group are very much in favour of it, and I really resent the slamming that we got. Thank you.
Councillor Harrison. Councillor Lindridge.
Thanks, Chair. I'm really pleased that the opposition is supporting this. That's the key thing for me. I wholeheartedly support what Mike said. He's given really good answers and reasoning as to why the highlight was going ahead. So, as a member of the Finance and Policy Committee, and I've been on that for nearly 10 years, I think, the policy and the recommendations are very robust. The officers have done due diligence, and the prudential borrowing over that period is a sensible recommendation. for the benefit of the health and well-being and the feel-good factor for children and young people and the residents of the town, it's really important that this goes ahead. I'll be supporting this wholeheartedly, and I'm pleased that the opposition are going to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hargreaves and then Councillor Young.
Thank you, Chair. Mike, I'm really annoyed with you for many reasons. I mean, number one, I mean, I've got them all written. Look, I mean, I've got a list of them. I mean, chief amongst those is the idea that we're not allowed to ask questions now in a democratic place. I mean, goodness me, I might as well go home. I mean, that's all I ever do especially when you're chairing, is ask questions. I mean, that's the whole point. We have to challenge. We have to make sure that the decisions that people are making are robust. Otherwise, what the heck? I nearly swore. What the heck are we all doing here? Goodness me, that's the whole point of democracy. And far from me to be the one to give you a history or a maths lesson, but you guys have been in since 2010, that's 13 years. You seem to make this point about the Labour Party being in for 10 years, and you guys have had 13 years. And actually, when we were in, we delivered a new FE college, we delivered a new sixth form college, we delivered a Building Schools for Future programme that put new primary schools in the town, we built new hospitals, we built new, I mean, like, what more? The One Life Centre. But we've done masses of that type of stuff, and actually it was Stuart Drummond, the Independent, that was in until 2013. So, you know, both history and maths are wrong, but there is nobody in this chamber that has been a bigger advocate and a bigger supporter of the Highlight Centre than myself. In fact, I'm the only one, I think, in this chamber that voted for the purchase of the land that the building is now going to be built on. And I went against lots of colleagues in order to do that. And some of the officers who are still here will remember that horrid evening where I actually voted for the purchase of the land. So I will not be lectured and told that I am not a supporter of the Highlight Centre, not in any way, not by you, sir. You know, it is a fantastic opportunity for this town and for all of the young people and families and older people in this town to enjoy with something in a fantastic outlook. I mean, there isn't a better location for such a facility, and I have said so on numerous occasions, and I think the officers over there would support that. So please, if you are going to stand up and say, for us not to play politics, do not do that yourself in a speech.
I think the point I'll make to clarify is that was the feeling that I got of finance and policy when it went two for, 2 against, and 1 abstention. So that's what we're dealing with. So all those comments were observations, and they were linked to what I felt may happen tonight. So you can't criticise me for being a little bit worried and a little bit concerned. No, I also want to put a point of clarification in. We also want to put a point of clarification in that one member, and I won't name names, but a councillor on your side repeatedly said that at Economic Growth and Regeneration committees, he'd repeatedly asked the question about the price of the Highlight and was repeatedly told that the costs weren't going up. It's never been to Economic Growth and Regeneration in that respect, so I wasn't sure what that particular point was about. It certainly hasn't come out of my mouth, so that's why I was a little bit nervous coming into tonight, thinking that there was going to be objection. So that is the basis of the statement I made. It was based on a 2-1 situation from your side when this lot on our side voted for it. I move the vote considering everybody is in favour. Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, if you'll indulge me a second, members, my own comment won't be political in any way, shape or form, but merely to thank you all for continuing to support this project and getting it over the line and delivering it for the people of Hartlepool. I look forward to us seeing this spade in the ground very shortly. Do we need to go to a vote? Is there going to be any dissent? No? Can we accept that as unanimous? Great. Thank you. Okay, there are no motions this evening. Item 13, I'll hand over to the Managing Director, Denise McGuckin, for the business report.
Thank you, Chair. I've received notification of the resignation of Councillor Wallace from the Labour Group, and I've been advised from the Labour Group that Councillor Wallace will be replaced on Audit and Governance by Councillor Sharp and on Economic Growth and Regeneration by Councillor Creevy. Members are asked to note those changes. With respect to the fair trade, I know this has been something that has been discussed on the floor of Council many times. I'm pleased to say we now have confirmation from the Fair Trade Foundation that they will extend our fair trade status to the end of the year. And we've undertaken a number of meetings with the local group, and it's been agreed that a steering group will sit underneath the Hartlepool Food Partnership. We're looking to ensure we've got representatives from across schools, churches and businesses. This isn't just about Hartlepool Borough Council. If we are to be a fair trade town, it has to be across the various sectors. We're hopeful that a meeting of the Fair Trade Steering Group will take place in October, and in the meantime we are looking to renew our application form in December 2023. Section 3 of the report refers to the Teesport Welfare Committee. I've received a request from them to see if we would like to have a representation on that committee from Hartlepool Council. I know Redcar Council have been members on it for several years. I was wondering if there was anybody locally who, a local council, who may have an interest in the seafarers' welfare, maritime industry or charities and might find attending of the meetings of benefit. So council is asked to consider the nomination of an elected member, if any, come forward from the floor this evening.
Councillor Dodds raise his hand.
Hey, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I would put myself forward for that.
Seconded before he spoke.
Thank you. Just checking, is there anybody else? No? Thank you, Councillor Dodds.
Thank you. Just to inform members, there were no urgent decisions, special urgent decisions taking place between May and 2023 and July 24, and to confirm the decision agreed at Audit and Governance Committee regarding the independent persons, and that decision was taken on the 19th of September, and those independent persons are Miss Caroline Fitzsimmons, Mr Peter Greenwell and Miss Gillian Smith, and they will hold those posts for 4 years. I've also been notified that Councillor Smith has resigned from Audit and Governance, and a replacement member of the Conservative and Coalition Group is sought.
Are there any nominations from the group?
Not a nomination, but I'd like to say something. Is that all right?
Yeah.
I'd just like to say that my name was put forward without my knowledge, and that I had not put my name forward for the Audit and Governance Committee, which is the reason why I've never turned up. And it goes against me as a councillor that I have no shows to the Audit and Governance Committee. So I'd like to say that I didn't resign because I wasn't actually put forward in the first place.
Okay. Hang on, I had Councillor Young's hand first.
We're reviewing who should go on to the Audit and Governance Committee, so we'll just make progress, I think, Chair.
Councillor Bash.
Just for a point of clarity, were you nominated at a council meeting to go on to that? Is that what happened? At the AGM. Well, I mean, I find it disappointing that the coalition are nominating people without asking them first, but I think it's only fair in Councillor Smith's defence that she had no idea that those missed meetings not be held against her attendance record, and that those aspects of her attendance record be struck, so that it doesn't appear that she's missed meetings that she had no idea she was supposed to be at, just because of the mismanagement of the members opposite.
Haley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not sure that we can remove that altogether, but we could put a note on the attendance record just to say that to explain why Councillor Smith didn't attend, because she wasn't appointed.
She was at the AGM.
Okay.
That's me done, Chair.
One public question from Mr Lilly. I'll hand over to the Managing Director to read the question.
Thank you. I've spoken to Mr Lilly and he's asked me to ask the question. So, Seaton Crew has become one of the most popular open water all-year swimming venues in the North East, recognised by ourselves, the Council, in our provision of a seasonal lifeguard service. Figures submitted to Northumbrian Water and Hartlepool Borough Council through Sewerage Free Hartlepool and Seaton Crew sea swimmers, known as the Brass Monkeys, show 5,264 bathers out of season in the season 21 to 22 and 4,878 in the season 22-23. During the summer season, families and various groups, including the Brass Monkeys, swim every day, from the area opposite the Norton Hotel being the most popular. Exiting the sea water, it would be beneficial, not to say healthy, for all beach users, families, swimmers and visitors to Hartlepool to have access to a rinse-off facility to wash salt water and sand off bodies and swimming costumes. In the last 12 months, Mr Lilly and colleagues have contacted a number of councillors who all have positively shown their support for this request. Other local seaside resorts, such as Whitby, offer free cold water showers for beach users. Could Councillor Lilly request officers to meet with us, the Brass Monkeys, to progress this facility?
Councillor Little.
Thank you, Mr Lee, for your question. I can totally understand the reason of this request and the health benefits this leisure activity brings to those who swim in the sea, even though sometimes I do think you're a bit, especially in the winter. I understand that there's a financial logistics challenges associated with the installation of the shower or taps, which includes identifying a budget for the works and the utility connections, along with, I've got the wrong glasses on, along with the subsequent ongoing revenue costs associated with the cleaning, testing and maintenance. I've been actively seeking funding opportunities for this proposal, and I would ask the members to support me in asking officers to carry out a piece of work to identify some locations and funding, which officers advise could be in a region of 15 to 20k, plus ongoing maintenance. The feasibility works alone will cost $1,500 to produce, which can be undertaken now and result in further budget pressures for their trading accounts. I'm aware that officers are in discussions with Northumberland Water regarding this proposal, and once a feasibility study has concluded, we'll know the actual costs of installation and seek contributions from Northumberland Water to assist in the delivery. A further report will be presented to F&P when the study is concluded.
Thank you, Councillor Little. Mr Lilly, you can, if you wish, ask up to 2 supplementary questions in relation to the answer you've received there, if you want to.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Just more than I know might be difficult. A rough guesstimate, and I realise it would be a very rough guesstimate of the timeline of when we may possibly see some progress.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've just been told about 3 months. Ready for the winter.
Okay, has that... No, hang on. No, sorry, Councillor Smith. Do you have any further supplementary question? No, okay. Are you happy that your question's been answered? Thank you. As per the agreement that we've just agreed today, if the questioner is happy with the answer he's received, then there's no debate after the public question. Okay. No. So, okay. Sorry about that. We've all just agreed it this evening. Okay. No, on what? No. Let's. Right. Are there any? Councillor Hargreaves. Councillor Hargreaves, please. Are there any questions under agenda item 15? Questions to the Chair about recent decisions on council committees and forums without notice under Council Procedural Rule 10.1? None? There are 2 questions that have been received under agenda item 15B and circulated previously to members. The first one from Councillor Brash.
Thank you, Chair. Can the Chair of the Finance and Policy Committee give Council a summary of the current financial position of the authority? What are the measures being proposed to combat the projected overspend? And what is his assessment of the potential threat of effective bankruptcy and or the issuing of a 114 notice?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Brash. And thank you for the question. The Finance and Policy Committee received a report last week from the Director of Finance, IT and Digital, setting out in some detail the financial position of the Council. The in-year overspend is currently forecast to be just under 4 million. However, the Director also stressed that if the budget had been set using reserves of 2.5 million, the ongoing sustainable budget gap was actually more in the region of 6.5 million. A significant reason for the overspend is within children's social care. Members will be aware of the pressures, and we've already discussed them tonight, and the majority of councils are facing this problem around children in care. Given that one external placement for one child can cost in excess of £500,000 per year, the equivalent of 1% of council tax, I'm sure members will appreciate the real challenges our officers are grappling with. I will make the point that we are not alone. Not a day goes by when we don't read or hear about a council in serious financial difficulty. Whilst in recent years the government has significantly increased support to local government, more funding is needed, and specifically a better and fairer deal for Hartlepool is an absolute must. I know officers continue to make a robust case to government on the council's behalf. Measures being implemented include action plans are being drawn up by directors, and this will no doubt be linked to the MTFS position to support the longer-term financial position overall. Monthly budget support or challenge clinics are being implemented. Introduction of a budget management scheme and additional training for all budget managers. Council-wide messaging to all staff seeking to curtail any spending that doesn't need to be put in place. Acceleration of a 24-25 savings proposal where possible and appropriate. And an in-depth review of council reserves. An update will be provided to Finance and Policy Committee in November, along with an updated medium-term financial plan and a savings proposal alongside. With regards to the threat of a Section 114 notice, there is no immediate threat. However, the Director has been clear. If we do not take the necessary actions now, and I would add to take responsible decisions going forward, we will be facing a Section 114 notice within 2 to 3 years. As Leader of the Council, I am committed to rising above politics on this matter and taking the responsible and right decisions to ensure whichever party is in charge in the future, we are best placed to continue to deliver the essential services that residents and businesses of this borough rely on. I hope the opposition are similarly committed. Finally, I can put on record, and I hope on behalf of all members, my thanks to the Managing Director, directors and all the team for their continuing commitment to addressing the current budget difficulties, whilst also focusing on long-term service delivery in what is an exceptionally challenging time for our government.
Councillor Brash.
I understand I don't have supplementaries. For once, we treat the public better than we do elected members. However, as part of the debate, which I understand we're now in, my reasoning for posing this question tonight was, I have to say, I was somewhat shocked that the report that went to Finance and Policy last week, referred to by the Leader of the Council, didn't then come to this Council for further discussion and debate. I think that is a concern to me, because it is a report that has a great deal of challenging and, dare I say it, worrying content. A year ago, almost to the day, this Council considered a medium-term financial strategy on the back of a medium-term financial strategy that was considered by Finance and Policy almost to the day of their last meeting. Today, we don't have a medium-term financial strategy yet. And a year ago, we were told that it was absolutely integral to take a series of decisions. I challenged whether it was absolutely integral. We were told that it was. To take a series of decisions as part of the MTFS in September to give officers the direction they needed, the certainty they needed, in order to deal with the financial challenge that this authority was facing. Yet today, on the specific issue that I'm going to come to, we appear not to be giving any direction. Now, it is absolutely the case, and it's absolutely on record, so it comes as no shock to anybody in this room, that the Labour Party campaigned on 5 pledges in the recent local government elections. 5 pledges endorsed by the majority. One of those was to freeze council tax. Now, up until this point, I'd assumed that that was something that members opposite didn't agree with, that they thought that wasn't the right move to make. Until it came to our attention that the good people of the Hart Ward have been informed of the leader of the council's decision, which is to freeze council tax this year, to adopt Labour Party policy. We congratulate him for it. But it comes as a little bit of a surprise that informing the people of the Hart Ward, and he asked us not to be political, it's on a blooming leaflet for crying out loud in the Hart Ward right as we speak, that came ahead in priority terms of giving direction to our officers about our intentions over council tax. The people of the Hart Ward are now more informed by the political leadership of the council than the officers and indeed the opposition here in this chamber. That doesn't sound like sound financial management to me. Therefore, we on this side believe we should give them that direction. And so I would move, Chair, and I've checked this, I know exactly what I am allowed to move and not allowed to move. Under section 10.2, part 4 of the Constitution, I would move that the issue of adopting Labour's council tax freeze policy be referred to the next meeting of Finance and Policy, and that Council further registers its expectation that adopting this freeze will be agreed by members of FNP before returning it to Council. Should there need to be extraordinary meetings to expedite this process and give officers direction at an earlier point, we would support that. I move a motion.
Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the leaflet that went out was meant to say that we were looking towards the possibility of that. So if it is, that's fine. But that was what I was looking to do. That's okay. I appreciate what you're saying. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying my guidance was to colleagues to do that. So that's that. I think on the matter of pushing for direction, I think there's a two-way process here. We've got the director who is responsible for finance, James, who is looking at stuff, and I think there's almost a need for us to be reviewing that after they have done work on the MTFS. So we need to wait for them to bring forward the MTFS in order for us to look at guidance on that. So that's the plan. Again, I'm not arguing with it, Councillor Creevy. I'm not arguing with it. I am literally just saying that wasn't the guidance that I was giving forward. Councillor Brash, I'm not calling you a liar.
As point of order, you are not allowed to mislead Council. This is what the leaflet says. The new Conservative leader for Hartlepool Borough Councillor, Councillor Mike Young, has revealed the next budget, 24-25, will see council tax frozen for Hartlepool residents. I bet if I looked closely, I bet it's promoted on behalf of Councillor Young as well, because he's usually the agent for these leaflets. I know you don't see Jill's, but you do see your own. That's what it says in the leaflet. And you cannot stand here and say, oh, that's not what I meant. It's not what I meant. It says you've decided to freeze council tax and you've told me.
Right, both of you. I think the point of order has been made.
It's very clear that is what the people of the Hart Ward have been told by the leader of this council, who seeks not to make that direction to officers or indeed this chamber. We made that direction in May as part of the elections. We got the most votes. We know what we're going to vote for. Have the decency to make your political position on this known to everybody here. Get it through Finance and Policy. Bring it back to this council.
I'll let you finish because you did start.
It was just one point to make that the overspend has focused minds anyway. So we're at a point where we know more now than we did back then. and that's why the position is now being paused until we have further information. So it's about further information to be gone. It was August.
Okay, members, I've had a proposal and a seconder, so we will need to go to a vote on that. Does it need to be, just checking, does it need to be a required report at all?
It's up to you.
All right, okay. Councillor Brash?
That under section 10.2, part 4 of the Constitution, I would therefore like to move that the issue of adopting Labour's council tax freeze policy be referred to the next meeting of Finance and Policy under the expectation that it would be agreed, given that it's your policy too, and should there be need to expedite the process, we would be happy to accept extraordinary meetings to get it done.
Okay. Is there any dissent from that motion? Do we need to go to a vote? Yeah? Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So we're voting on what has just been said, for or against. Councillor Allen. For. Councillor Ashton.
Against.
Councillor Boddy.
For.
Councillor Brash.
For.
Councillor Brown.
Against.
Councillor Buchan.
Against.
Councillor Cassidy.
Against.
Councillor Clayton.
For.
Councillor Cowie.
Against.
Councillor Cranny.
Against.
Councillor Creevy. For. Councillor Darby.
Against.
Councillor Dodds.
For.
Councillor Dunbar.
For.
Councillor Feeney.
For.
Councillor Groves.
Against.
Councillor Hall.
For.
Councillor Hargreaves.
For.
Councillor Harrison.
For.
Councillor Holbrook.
For.
Councillor Howson. Councillor Leadham. Councillor Lindridge. Councillor Little. Councillor Little.
Against.
Councillor Martin Wells. Councillor Moore.
Against.
Councillor Morley. Councillor David Nicholson. Councillor Veronica Nicholson. Councillor Oliver. Councillor Reeve. Councillor Sharp. Councillor Smith. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Young. That's carried. No, it's not carried. It's fallen. 17-18.
Thank you. We have a second question from Councillor Creevy.
Yeah, can the chair of the Adults and Community-Based Services Committee give an update on the Housing for Families with a Disabled Family Member motion, slightly long-winded, which was referred to Adults Committee on the 16th of December 2021, which is almost 2 years ago?
Councillor Buchan.
There's a strategic housing group in place involving a range of teams across the council who lead on different aspects of housing. The group reviewed the current situation in response to the council motion and identified there is a shortage of accessible housing. However, due to issues within the Tees Valley Home Finder system, it was difficult to quantify. Work has been undertaken subsequently includes procurement of a new home search system, which is the facility report on those on the waiting list and the reasons why, with reports now being developed. A data review has been undertaken to try and understand the whole picture and identify themes for the council and partners. To focus on information about local housing needs has been shared with registered property partners to promote the need for accessible properties. 79 new bungalows have been developed and a further 31 have been approved through planning. Disabled facilities grant funding has been used to adapt a further 327 properties in the borough to meet the needs of people with disabilities. A half-day session is scheduled to take place on the 3rd of October, 1 till 4, at the Centre for Excellence in Teaching and Learning to inform the development of a new housing strategy, which will include determining needs and identifying potential solutions. There will be updates provided to members as this work progresses.
Councillor Creevy.
Yeah, sorry, it was my understanding after that motion was brought to full council that it was supposed to come back to the committee and be reported back. Also, one of the requests on the motion was to consider an accessible housing register, and I'm delighted that there's a number of bungalows being built, but the concern was that those bungalows are not 3 or 4 bedrooms. They're only 2 bedrooms and they're not big enough for families. Thank you.
Councillor Dodds.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to ask the Chair...
Councillor Dodds, could you stand, please? Sorry, it's not for my benefit, it's for the
My
council.
apologies. Yeah, can I just ask when this report will be ready?
Councillor Buchan.
The report that's going to be starting the CETL, is that what you mean? Well, it's just starting now, that's why. It's starting on the 3rd next week. You are invited if you want to go.
I think
Chair,
Denise,
I can
if
offer
you-
some support to
Managing Director.
Councillor Dodds' question. So we're starting a new housing strategy, and that meeting is on the 3rd of October at the Centre of Excellence, which Councillor Buchan's referred to. Members that are welcome to attend that. We will actually do a lot of work understanding what the needs and demands are that we've already got, but also making sure that we put this strategy in place for the next 3 to 5 years. And then we'll be bringing back a strategy report on housing to the relevant committee in due course. Now, that does take some time because we have to engage and consult with all our social register providers and also housing developers. And I think the key point from the motion has been addressed in the response, but also we need to look at, there's always room for improvement, Councillor Creevy, and we can feed that in.
Thank you. Hang on, I've got Councillor Clayton first.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I find it quite difficult to believe that it's taken 2 years to look at this and still not have the figures available, but I am encouraged that Denise has mentioned that it's being worked upon. I think that's a really positive step. However, it does highlight an issue that has happened with other things. I know the War Memorial at Seaton Carew, an action was agreed by council and then it was just sort of forgotten about until it was brought up again. So I'm just wondering, would it be sensible sorry, Councillor Young, would it be sensible for us to have like an action log following full council where we've agreed that a certain department or a certain individual will do whatever, and then we sort of like progress it, and then things are tracked instead of being lost?
Chair, we do have an officer action log. There has been progress against this. I know it hasn't been at the speed and pace, and maybe it's got the outcome that Councillor Creevy required, but I don't have a problem with sharing that with the council.
Councillor Creevy.
Can I propose that action tracker be shared with all members? Also, I'm a little bit concerned that there's a meeting that's been prepared for next Tuesday, which is 5 days away. There is a significant amount there's training on that day for NERIO training for all councillors are supposed to be attending. There's also audit and governance training for the TVCA that day, so people can't attend, and we've only just been told.
Me to come back. So this meeting has been in place for a while for officers and partners and stakeholders, and the relevant policy committee chairs have been invited. So it was, tonight I was just extending that invitation to members. I wasn't aware of the other training that had been taking place. We will, however, hold a specific members' seminar on this topic to make sure that your views are fed in.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Little.
It's just to clarify that Seaton Memorial hasn't been forgotten about. You can ask Joan how often I get onto her, and I get on, it's Secretary of State.
Point of order, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the minutes in front of me from December's council meeting,
Clayton.
which we related to November.
With respect, Councillor Clayton, at least wait for the chair to bring you in before you speak, okay? I'm trying to make sure that the meeting runs properly and fairly. And you have already spoken. Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's a point of order. I've got the minutes from November's council meeting where Councillor Smith brought up the fact that works surrounding looking at the War Memorial had been agreed many meetings before. In fact, I think it was about a year previous, and nothing had happened. So that was my point. When we agree something from council, it should go on a list and it should be actioned, and we should have a list of what's outstanding, what's being done, so we can see and make sure that everything we agree gets done.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any further questions in relation to the question that was raised by Councillor Creevy? No? Okay, thank you. We have, can you make sure that that action tracker is circulated? Thank you. There are no questions then submitted under 15C. And at item 15D, there are the minutes of the Cleveland Fire Authority held on the 24th of March and the Police and Crime Panel on the 13th of September, 15th of November and 7th of February and 11th of July. That's a mouthful. I have nothing else that needs to be said at this point, so we will close the meeting. And please note, members, that the next meeting is on the 30th of November even. Don't come back on Saturday. 30th of November, and we will see you at 7 p.m. Thank you.